Big Wall Street donors reportedly lining up to fund a Hillary Clinton run, betting on her governing more like her husband Bill than like President Obama. But Wall Street and Main Street might want to take note of who will likely lead her campaign. John Podesta is a man who created the left-wing blueprint for Obama's presidency, just leaving the White House and expected to lead Hillary's campaign. So, Steve, is this proof that a lot of people are making a wrong bet on her?
Yeah, this Wall Street bet is about as good as the bet they made on Barack Obama in 2008. We saw how that one turned out. Remember, Hillary Clinton had Hillary Care before we got Obamacare. She supported virtually every tax increase proposed. She supported Dodd-Frank. She had a lousy foreign policy. And so she's more, in terms of leftism, David, Bill was softcore. She's hardcore.
Well, Rick, I know that Podesta, the guy that Hillary just hired or is about to hire as her campaign manager, he did work for the Bill Clinton campaign or the Bill Clinton administration, but he really made his mark on the Obama administration, didn't he?
Well, I guess I think he made his mark on both of those White Houses. Look,
but he's not a compromiser, or at least hasn't been over the past 6 years.
Well,
the president certainly hasn't been.
But he really hasn't been in that kind of a job where he's negotiating deals to compromise over. He is an excellent political strategist. I got to tell you, I understand that we're now doing 2016 politics here,
right.
But we shed some focus on who Jeb Bush picked as his advisors this week. Paul Wolfowitz? Are we
talking
really
about Hillary
there?
Because we know that Hillary, Sabrina, is the person who's probably going to be running from the Democratic side. Take a look at what John Podesta did in 2010. After working with the president on the first 2 years, he created this incredible plan. It's called The Power of the President, Recommendations to Advance Progressive Change. Spells it out right there and then goes through a whole list of things that President Obama actually rolled out since 2010. So he really made the blueprint for the president's progressive policies over the past few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the two of them together is very concerning, especially when we're talking about businesses. Look, one of the things that Podesta's very liberal Center for American Progress has been at the forefront of, sort of perpetuating this idea that women are constantly under attack in the workplace. They've perpetuated this idea of the wage gap. And Hillary Clinton has gotten behind and sponsored horrible bills like the Paycheck Fairness Act, which would do nothing to close this so-called gap. It would make women much more expensive. It would cost businesses a fortune. So I think together there is a lot to be very concerned about, both at the small business level and moving on up the ladder.
So, Carrie, again, who would Hillary? Hillary, by the way, is not coming out with either a clear indication she's going to run or her platform for a long time. So that leaves a lot of donors guessing which way she'll govern, like either her husband Bill or John Podesta and President Obama. Who is it?
Well, Steve mentioned Dodd-Frank. We know that Dodd-Frank is squeezing Main Street banks. It's squeezing small lenders. So we know that Main Street is going to be pinched. Wall Street, I'm not so worried about. Wall Street is politically agnostic. They give to the left and the right, because the not-so-dirty secret is there will be bailouts no matter who's in the White House. We saw that with Bush. We saw it with Obama. We would see it under Clinton as well.
And, Mike, even Democrats, by the way, maybe not Rick, but a lot of Democrats, like Paul Begala, for example, have come out with quotes about the way John Podesta operates. He's not afraid to use power and ruthlessly if necessary. The guy's tough.
Well, let me tell you something. Hillary would be like Bill Clinton before the bond market and the Republican Congress pushed him towards the center. Bill was far to the left his first 2 years, and if you remember, David, the economy was not doing very well those first 2 years.
But, John Tamny, you get the impression that Hillary had a very different background than her husband Bill. I mean, she was influenced by the same folks in Chicago, for example, that influenced our current president, right?
Yeah, I'm one of these oddities who thinks she's not going to run for president, but that even if she does, she will not get the Democratic nomination. But assuming I'm wrong and she actually ascends to the White House, I don't think we have much to worry about. And for the reasons that Mike pointed out, her election would galvanize the Republicans in a major way in terms of fundraising. They'd take back either the House and or the Senate, and you'd have the very gridlock that markets and Wall Street love more than anything, because when Washington's not doing anything, markets soar.
But Steve, the Republicans already took back the Senate, and they have the House now. And the question is how much a president can do on his or her own. And we had it spelled out by John Podesta in 2010, and then the president actually did it. All these executive actions.
Yeah, John Podesta is part of that progressive tradition which for 100 years has been waging war against the founders and the Constitution, thinking we ought to have a semi-dictatorship executive. You just do things by decree. And so she's going to try to do the same thing, especially if the Republicans control the House and the Senate. David, at least for the next 2 years after 2016, we do need to get things done, like radical simplification of the tax code, getting rid of the worst parts of the whole thing about Obamacare, reining in these rogue regulatory agencies, including the IRS.
Well,
there's a lot of things that have to be done.
I'll tell you, having read through John Podesta's blueprint back in 2010, there's nothing there about making anything more simple. It's more regulations, more taxes, et cetera. Meanwhile, the Cash and In crew is ready to roll at the bottom of the hour. Eric, what do you have?
Hey, David, stop ISIS by giving them jobs. What? That's what the Obama administration is saying. Plus, pro-union protesters angry at Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker taking their fight to his parents' home. Are politicians' families now fair game? See you at 11:30.
We'll be watching, Eric. Thank you very much. But up here first, forget about free community college. How about the first 2 years free for everybody at all public colleges? A new handout plan that really isn't so free.